back fishes.
We're so stoked to have you on this. We call this Banjo Breakdown. Thank you very much for doing this today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Chance has been keeping me up to speed on all the Instagram connections you guys had, and he's right here.
Hey, Tom, nice to meet you.
How you doing? Nice to meet you too.
And so Tom, this is really exciting for us because we are, first of all, so excited that you know the Banjo Minnow. You've used the Banjo Minnow.
I fished the original Banjo Minnow when it was the original as seen on TV lure, and a bunch of people even made fun of me way back in the day because that stuff never works. But it was one of the few as seen on TV products that worked as seen, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, not only in your opinion, you have the proof to show it.
Yeah, the fish.
So tell me about the original, when you first saw the Banjo Minnow the first time, what was it that got your attention? What just got your excitement about the Banjo Minnow?
When did the Banjo Minnow first come out? That's what I'm trying to remember.
It came out in 1997.
Okay, so I was still in middle school when it came out, so I don't remember the exact year I would have started fishing it, but by then I was already fishing as much as I could. I was been a fisherman since I could walk. I was never much of a soft plastic kind of guy. I was mostly I liked fishing things that had a lot more action. I was never into like the slow fishing of, like soft plastic, like power worms on the bottom and stuff. So the fact that the Banjo Minnow could be fished in a variety of ways, slower or faster if you wanted to, depending on the conditions and what the fish were looking for, was what I liked about it.
Ah, interesting. Now, so tell me about that first time you got the kit. Remember that day, and then you went out fishing with it. Tell me about your experiences getting in your hands the first time and fishing with the first time.
So getting in my hands the first time was like, what do I do with this corkscrew? It comes like, you definitely had to spend a little bit of time sitting down and rigging it up and figuring out how it all came together. The first time I fished it, I was at a lake in Western New Jersey that we used to camp at all the time. So a very lily pad, weed bed lake. And I could definitely remember the first couple casts just right on the edges of lily pads, and just those bass just coming out from hiding and just slamming the thing.
At that point, you're like, okay, this is different, right?
Yeah, this thing works. I gotta keep working with this.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the fact that you talked about using crankbaits, spinnerbaits, stick baits. You liked those type of
exactly
products.
I like that kind of fishing, that presentation.
Yeah, and this was so different, right? Did it make sense to you about genetic response and how fish attack dying minnows? Is that one of the things that kind of made?
I love that you could throw it out there, and half the time it does its work for you. While it's just slow falling, sometimes fish will pick it up, and then you could do a nice slow retrieve, just kind of give it a couple jerks, let it just kind of twitch around there slow, and if that didn't work, or if you saw a bass maybe if you're even sight fishing, you see it gets the fish's attention, and then you could, bam, speed it up with some really quick, flicks of the tip of the rod to really make it jerk like it's escaping, and then stop, and then bam, fish will pick that up.
I'm glad you bring that up because, sometimes when you're using a conventional bait, you're just reeling in, and hope that they're opportunistic at that time. But when you see a fish, and with the Banjo Minnow, you can actually lure them in for a pun, right? You actually lure them in and get them interested, and then they finally just can't help themselves.
Exactly. You could just work the lure so many different ways and different speeds that you're going to get their attention. And, if they're hungry or mad enough at it, they're going to go for it.
For people, and you said it yourself, is this a scam? Is this a gimmick? What do you say to people who say, oh, that was just a TV minnow long time ago? It's not one of the old OGs out there. What do you say to people like that?
If I'm fishing with them or they're near me, I just put one on the end of their rod and tell them to, cast over by that log or by those lily pads or something like that, and let it do the talking for you.
Right.
Pull up some pictures of fish I've caught with it. Some of the pictures you guys saw on my Instagram of, literally me holding, 2-pound bass with Banjo Minnow hanging right out of the side of the mouth. It's not faking it. So
you're saying the pictures do the talking?
yeah.
Yeah.
Pictures do the talking, or just using it, actually just a couple casts and just watching its action in the water, fishing it close to shore so you can actually see what it's doing. So then, okay, well, when I'm 30, 40 feet out there, what that action looks like.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the picture. Is that your wife that is out fishing with you?
Yep. There's a couple pictures of my wife fishing it as well. We have a place in the Poconos with a 70-acre lake that's a very weedy, used to be a swamp that they flooded, so a lot of wood structure and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, she loves fishing it as well, just because it works,
Now, in that picture, if I look really closely at the bow of the boat on the left, there's a little sticker down there. What's that sticker?
It's a Banjo Minnow sticker. So in the time since Banjo Minnow wasn't, really you weren't able to buy it. And before you guys started it up,
right,
I would hunt down Banjo Minnows on eBay, anyone selling Banjo Minnow stuff, because, you lose them eventually. You get them snagged. Pickerel, love them, and they all have to bite your line.
They destroy them.
So, I would go on eBay and just buy lots of the Banjo Minnow bodies that worked, or the hooks, or the, for the second generation Banjo Minnow, the headpiece.
Right.
And someone that sold me a bunch gave me a couple of the Banjo Minnow stickers. Don't know where they got them, but I quickly was like, that's, got to put that right in the front of the boat there. So I jokingly there's also another sticker in front of it with like a Roman numeral 5. So my boat's name is the Banjo Minnow 5.
No way. You got to get a picture of that for me.
As the Banjo Minnow 5. I don't know whatever happened to 1 through 4. But but yep.
Those 1 through 4 were the boats that you weren't using the Banjo Minnow, and this
exactly.
is the we'd love to get a picture of that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about okay, so using the Banjo Minnow, and talk about how you have to screw the corkscrew into the nose and what that does to the bait, because I can say it all day long. I really want to hear your perspective as an angler who uses it. How has that totally changed fishing for you?
Well, one, I think with the corkscrew metal in the front of the nose there, it really brings the weight of the lure forward, which when you have that hinge point, which I think is the key to the minnow, is you get that hinge point between the front and the hook, and that allows the minnow itself to just jerk very erratically in very many different directions, which is that's what I think the bass and the fish are, triggering on.
And you realize that our patent pending is that nose hook, corkscrew with the hook at the nose, and that hinge point, which is I never heard anybody say that. That's a great explanation of that. But when you use other baits, they're either you stick the hook all the way through the plastic, so therefore you've taken a lifelike plastic and you just put a backbone in it, and now it's not lifelike anymore.
Not at all. With the corkscrew, which I if you put that so the ring of the corkscrew where your hook is coming through, you could also change the angle where if you want it to fish, in my opinion, more straight or more flat based on how that screws in. I don't know how. I've definitely experimented with it one way or the other, or if I want the minnow to be more straight up or more sideways, depending on fishing speed.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. If you go on the website and talk about how to rig it, Chance and I talk about that. I like to rig it so the nose of the bait goes forward. He likes it on its side.
Yeah, I would prefer the fish more upright, and then with the back of the hook being downward.
So tell me about all the kinds of fish you've caught with the Banjo Minnow.
I mostly target bass, so that's been predominantly what I'm catching with it. But perch love it. I've definitely caught some decent sized perch on it. Pickerel, of course. They'll eat almost anything that swims. That's pretty much it. I really haven't targeted. No, I've actually caught one of the biggest crappie of my life, like a 14-incher. I mean, a true slab of a crappie on it from
Yeah.
out under a dock once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on the boat, whether you're on the dock, whether you're on the shore, right?
Nope. No, it's as long as you can get it to where you want to get it, it's going to catch fish.
So now there's this new Banjo Minnow. And one of the things I believe you had a little, maybe a little concern that didn't have the flexibility. Oh, that was,
yeah, maybe,
oh,
I might have commented. Yeah, because the second generation kind of has the more segmented body.
Yes,
As
yes.
compared to, because you know, the new Banjo Minnow is more like the first Banjo from what I see.
Yeah.
My new set is in the mail. It hasn't got here yet. I think tracking says it'll be here Wednesday.
When you get it, I want you to videotape yourself opening up and talking to the camera.
I'll do a nice unboxing for you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
You know, as a matter, somebody else made a comment about the flexibility. I'm sorry, it wasn't you, and what happens is people go on eBay and they look for it and they're counterfeiters and they don't use the same plastic. They don't use, we have a very proprietary polyurethane mix that we call living plastic, and nobody can duplicate it. So you'll notice the flexibility.
One of my good fishing buddies who I turned on to the Banjo Minnow did the same thing as me, tried to get on, you know, I had my original stock of first and second generation that I've been using. He got some stuff off, I think probably eBay, that was, as soon as he opened the package, he was like, this isn't the same. But
this isn't the
plastic
same.
wasn't squishy to the touch. It was very firm, looked similar, but just wasn't quite the same. And the action was just completely different. It was like fishing a hard plastic stick.
Exactly.
Did not have that movement.
Right. So those are, the reason I bring that up is because when people see this, we want them to understand that what you get on eBay, it's just the times we live in with counterfeiters that want to draft off people who've had success, but it's not the same product. They can't do the same plastic formulation that we do, and that's that really is a big part of the Banjo Minnow. In addition to the hookup at the nose, it's the formulation of the plastic. So, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color was always kind of the classics. The shad color, shad with a black back.
Yep.
Or, the lakes I tend to fish tend to be a little darker, so I'm fishing a little bit more bright or brighter naturals.
Yeah.
Basically
try the yellow one that you get.
Okay.
That Chance is sent to you. Try that one in a little bit of darker, murkier water.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing is I wanted to find out about is you use different sizes. Tell me why the different sizes make a difference for you when you're fishing, because some people go, well, I don't need a bunch of sizes, but you actually do for panfish and bigger fish and
absolutely.
Big hogs,
depending on what you're targeting too, it's like if you're fishing a lake that maybe there's a lot of crappies, a lot of perch, a lot of smaller fish, you're going to go for the 3-inch minnow.
Right.
But I mean, if you're going out there for the big boys, it helps to size up, Yeah. It's going to weed out catching some of the small fish. But the bigger the minnow, the bigger the action.
Yeah.
The bigger minnow has more flex in it, and you can make it do a lot more.
Yep.
It also weighs a little more. You can get it down a little deeper, a little quicker.
Yep. What you're going to notice is that we have streamlined it a little bit. It still has the same outline. It still has the same weight. It still has all the original benefits of the original banjo, but we've streamlined the head a little bit more, and you'll notice that we put a little blunt in the front of the nose. And the reason we do that is it makes it easier to put the corkscrew in.
Okay.
But also it creates a little resistance, and that resistance creates more action on the back.
Exactly. If it's too streamlined, it's just going to want to zip straight through the water.
Exactly. You'll see there's more defined scales. There's the really holographic eyes, which catch the sunlight really well. So we've actually spent the last 2 years literally at mold after mold and formulation after formulation to make sure that it has all the original properties, but it has this forward thinking, contemporary feel that fishermen have today, because it's so different than it was back in the day. So we have to be pay attention to what's going on today, but not so much that we ditch what we originally created.
Exactly, because the original still works so well that, but could always make, little tweaks, little improvements from all the feedback you've probably got throughout the years.
Oh yeah. So if you had, this is your opportunity, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about the Banjo Minnow, the new Banjo Minnow kit, and maybe has saw it before, but just haven't quite decided to try it? This is your opportunity. What would you say to them?
What would I say to them? I mean,
yeah,
that's hard. That's not a hard question because, I mean, in a way, I would just want to tell them like, hey, it works. I've used the Banjo Minnow since almost its existence, and it's been one of my go-to, my go-to things. If you let me pick 5 different lures from my tackle box, Banjo Minnow is going to be the first one I'm grabbing because of its variety of ways you can fish it. Because of, one, it just suits the places I fish very well. And I would just tell someone that, go out and try it. And if you're not catching fish with it, change up how you're using it, get your, it really does help you work on your technique. I think it'll make people a better fisherman because you really do have to be very focused on what you're doing with that rod tip and how it's making that lure dance in the water. And if you can get that down pat, it's going to work. And I think people will be a better fisherman for it.
What's interesting that you said, and it's it was very much our intention, was if you're just going to throw baits out and just going to reel them in, that's fine. But this is a situation, the Banjo Minnow is a situation, depending on what the fish are doing, depending on the time of year, depending on the water clarity, depending on so many other things, you can make this bait do so many different things where other baits you just can't do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to be, I'm in New Jersey, I'm in the Northeast, it's getting cold. So, this is where I'm going to be working that Banjo Minnow a lot slower. I'm going to be throwing it into structure, throwing it to areas that I think hold the fish and just reeling it slow, blip, blip, let it pause, give it a couple little jerks, let it pause, just let it slowly work its way down. And that tends to be how I can, catch fish with it in colder times when the bass are starting to slow down.
Yep.
Or you're fishing it in the summer and you could rip it faster, like jerk it real fast along the edges of weeds or over a submerged stump and just watch them explode on it.
Yeah. I personally have even, this was up in Maine and fishing for smallmouth. I've actually drifted the bank of the river and looked at the females bedding and actually pulled them off the bed.
Oh yeah. And I've annoyed fish on the bed, because, they're very protective of it. So you can just, get that guy, get that minnow right into the bed and twitch it a couple times. And they're either attacking it or trying to get it out and pull them off.
Okay. So put your mind that you're on YouTube or you're looking at your Instagram and all of a sudden you see you talking right off the top of that. What's the first thing you want someone to hear when they see you on the screen? What's the first thing you want them to hear?
It is a finesse fisher's dream. That's my opinion of the lure. If you want to have a lure that you can fish with finesse and really make it do what you want it to do, the Banjo Minnow is for you.
Awesome. He's a poet. You didn't even know it. That's great. But I know your wife likes to fish it and you've had other friends, but you don't necessarily have to be an expert fisherman, angler, do you?
No, like you said, it's not something it's not like a spinner bait or a crankbait that you just throw out and you reel straight in. It's not, it's not going to work like that, but it doesn't take much. As long as you're giving it some action, there's no wrong way to fish it, in my opinion. The only wrong way to fish it is to just cast it and reel it straight in. But short of that, any action you give it, some fish is going to be interested.
Right. And the only other way to fish it incorrectly is to not take it out of your tackle box. That's
exactly. I mean,
have you rigged the Banjo Minnow any creatively or any way different than the way we suggest, just out of curiosity?
I have experimented with different heavier hooks.
Okay.
I know back in the day there was a heavy hook that
There
came
wa-
with it.
Man,
that
you remember everything.
Oh yeah, you know.
You remember the little rattle too, right?
Yes, there was the rattle you
Yes.
could dangle off of it. I've experimented with slightly heavier hooks, or just using maybe like a split shot 8 inches above it to just,
Yep.
get it down deeper, but still have enough line behind the split shot to still give it enough action.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really it. I never used the rubber band weed guard. I found it to be pretty weedless in its own right. It doesn't
Yeah.
tend to catch on things too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, aside from just using slightly different hooks and just trying to get it down deeper.
Yeah. So, just a tip, we use those. I can't remember the size, but they were Gamakatsus that were
Mhm.
that were heavier. You still want to have that pivot point
Yep.
once you
Yeah.
get the barb through the hole. And if you use a bigger hook, you can always unscrew the top of the corkscrew and then put it back on. You can
Yeah.
do that too.
Yep.
So the last thing I want to ask you is, we're always trying to make something better. And for someone like yourself who've used the product, and maybe you don't answer this question now, wait till you get the product and fish it.
It's true.
But
I haven't used the newest version yet.
yeah, if you could think about, what you'd like as an angler, as a banjo fisherman angler, what would you like, or could be improved upon? We would certainly love your opinion on those types of things, because
Mhm.
we just want to continue to make better products, so people catch
Yep.
more fish and have more fun.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's probably a question I can answer after Wednesday.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I know I'll be fishing them. Probably not this weekend, but next weekend I'm getting up to my lake, so they're going to be first thing on the line again. So
Awesome.
I
Yeah,
will-
you got to get it in. You got to get up to the lake before it gets too cold, huh?
exactly. It's already getting chilly, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely get some fishing in with them before the end of the year. That's for sure.
Hey, Tom, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're
Chance
welcome.
is here. He says thank you as well. Get that picture of the Banjo 5.
Yeah, the Banjo Minnow 5.
Banjo Minnow 5, and we want your unboxing, and we just want you to walk through it and talk through the pieces. That
Yeah,
would be so
absolutely.
fantastic.
And I still think if I run back to my parents' house at some point, I still think I have some original plastic minnows that I probably at this point lost all the hardware for them, so I couldn't use them. But I still think I have some very original ones still tucked away somewhere. I'll have to see if I can find those.
When you take this out fishing weekend after next, and you use the silver shiner, do yourself a favor, and like when you're at the dock or when it's shallow, throw it out and twitch it a couple of times right by the boat, and
Mhm.
you'll see how it looks even more like a real minnow because of the
Okay.
outline. But the action is
Yeah, I'm excited.
lively.
I'm excited. I'm glad. I'm glad you guys brought it back. It's
Yeah.
been a long
Been too
time. But,
long.
when I saw, I'll admit, when I saw the Instagram stuff popping up in my head, I was like, is this another copycat or is it the real thing? And it's the real deal. So
I don't know if
excited.
Chance told you, but I hosted the original Banjo Minnow infomercial.
No, yeah, absolutely. I saw it on. Growing up, I spent my Saturday, Sunday mornings. We're all watching fishing, hunting shows on TV. So that's where I found it. And my dad wasn't the fisherman in the family as much. It was me. I was the one like, nope, got to find a way to get that. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Tom, thanks again. We appreciate it and look forward to your videos.